Let's talk about the prisons we live in. I'm not talking about literal ones with bars and walls. I'm talking about the prisons we build for ourselves, with our own excuses. The prisons of circumstance. You know the language we use to describe them, because we all use it. I'd be happy if it weren't for my dead-end job. I'd be in great shape if it weren't for my bad knee. I'd finally start that creative project if it weren't for my lack of time and energy. We define ourselves by our impediments. We build our identity around the things that we believe are holding us back. We locate the source of our power and our potential for happiness outside of ourselves, in the very circumstances we claim are imprisoning us. We essentially hand the keys to our freedom over to our boss, our body, or our bank account. But what if this entire framework is a profound mistake? What if our true self, the very core of our being, cannot be imprisoned by anything in the external world? What if the most essential part of you is, and always has been, completely and utterly free? There once lived a man who had more reason than almost anyone in history to feel trapped by his circumstances. He was a slave. He was physically lame. He lived at the mercy of a powerful and often cruel master. Yet from the depths of this external bondage, he delivered one of the most powerful declarations of human freedom ever uttered. His name was Epictetus, and his first lesson is a defiant roar against the tyranny of circumstance. He said, "You may fetter my leg, but not even Zeus himself can overpower my will." To understand the explosive power of this statement, you have to understand that this was not a hypothetical boast for Epictetus. It was his autobiography. Legend tells us that his master, in a fit of cruel rage, began to twist his leg. Epictetus calmly warned him, "It will break." The master continued, and the bone snapped. Epictetus's only response was a serene observation. "I told you it would break." He was physically lame for the rest of his life. He wore a fetter, a chain, on his leg first as a slave, and carried its effects for the rest of his life as a freedman. So when he says, "You may fetter my leg," he is speaking from direct, lived experience. He is looking his own suffering and the power that inflicted it directly in the eye. And what does he say to that power? He says, "Your authority stops at my skin. You can chain my body, you can break my bones, you can control my physical location. But you are touching a vessel, a container, a piece of flesh that I inhabit, but that is not the essential me. The essential me," he says, "is my will, and that is beyond your reach. It is beyond the reach of any emperor, any master, and even beyond the reach of Zeus, the king of all gods." The Greek word Epictetus used for this untouchable core of the self is prohairesis. It's a crucial term. It's often translated as will or volition, but it's richer than that. It is our faculty of choice, our moral character, the internal command center that decides what to assent to, what to value, and how to react. It is the only thing in the entire universe, the Stoics believed, that is truly and completely up to us. Everything else, our body, our health, our wealth, our reputation, what other people think of us, is an external. It is not up to us. Epictetus's declaration is the ultimate statement of this division. He is saying, "You can do whatever you want to my externals, to my leg, but you cannot touch my prohairesis. You cannot make me believe something I know to be false. You cannot force me to value something I know to be worthless. You cannot make me betray my own principles. My inner kingdom is sovereign, and I am its only ruler." Consider the modern embodiment of this idea, the physicist Stephen Hawking. As a young man, he was diagnosed with ALS, a disease that would progressively imprison him within his own body. The world saw a man in a wheelchair, unable to move, unable to speak without the aid of a machine. His body was, in the most profound sense, fettered. But was his will, his prohairesis, overpowered? Absolutely not. His will chose to continue his life's work with ferocious intensity. His will chose to explore the vast mysteries of the cosmos. His will chose to write books that would change humanity's understanding of the universe. While his body was confined to a single chair, his mind, powered by his unconquerable will, roamed the vastness of space and time. Not even the universe itself could overpower his will. This defiant declaration from Epictetus is not just poetic bravado. It is not an emotional outburst. It is a conclusion based on a calm, precise, and logical argument. And he gives us this logical breakdown in a second, quieter, but equally powerful statement. This is where he moves from defiance to diagnosis, explaining the philosophical mechanics behind his freedom. He says, "Lameness is an impediment to the leg, but not to the will." This is Epictetus, the logician, the master of categorization. He is asking us to perform a simple but life-altering act of mental separation. He is saying that we are made of different parts, and we must not confuse an impediment to one part with an impediment to the whole system. A flat tire is an impediment to the wheel, but not to the car itself. The engine is fine. More importantly, it is not an impediment to the driver's ultimate goal of reaching their destination. The driver, the one with the will, can simply find another way, call a taxi, take a train. When we confuse the part with the whole, we become paralyzed. The person who says, "My bad knee is ruining my life," is making a catastrophic category error. They are allowing an impediment to a small part of their body to become an impediment to their entire will to live a good life. But the person who applies Epictetan logic says, "My bad knee is an impediment to my leg's ability to run. It is not an impediment to my will. My will desires to be healthy and strong. Therefore, my will shall direct me to find other forms of exercise, like swimming or weightlifting, that do not require running." The will, when it understands its own nature, is never without options. It simply adapts to the reality of the situation. This ancient idea has a direct parallel in modern psychology, the concept of locus of control. People with a strong external locus of control believe their lives are dictated by outside forces, luck, fate, other people. They feel powerless. People with a strong internal locus of control believe that they are responsible for their own choices and outcomes. They feel powerful. Epictetus is making the ultimate case for cultivating an internal locus of control. He is teaching us that no matter how many external forces act upon us, our locus of control, our prohairesis, always remains internal and inviolable. Consider the artist Frida Kahlo. At 18, she was in a horrific bus accident that shattered her body. She spent the rest of her life in chronic pain, undergoing dozens of surgeries. Her body was a constant source of impediment. The lameness, the pain, was a powerful impediment to her leg, her spine, her physical comfort. But was it an impediment to her will? No, her will, her prohairesis, seized upon this very suffering and transformed it. It became the central subject of her art. She painted her pain, her brokenness, her resilience. She took the greatest impediment of her life and, through an act of sheer will, turned it into a source of some of the most powerful and enduring art of the 20th century. Her art was her will triumphing over her body's impediments. So, what is the ultimate lesson from these two inseparable quotes? It is that we must undertake a great relocation of the self. We are culturally conditioned to locate our sense of I in the fragile things that can be fettered. Our body, our job title, our social status, our reputation. When one of these things is threatened, we feel that our very self is under attack. Epictetus urges us to relocate our sense of self away from these vulnerable externals and to place it squarely and solely in our prohairesis, our faculty of choice. That is the true you, the you that decides, the you that values, the you that chooses to act with virtue regardless of the circumstances. This is the only part of you that cannot be chained. This redefines freedom. True freedom is not the ability to do whatever you want in the external world. True freedom is the state of your will, your inner kingdom, being entirely your own. You can be freer in a prison cell with an unconquered will than a king who is a slave to his passions. The daily practice, then, is to constantly perform this act of separation. When you face a challenge, ask yourself, is this an impediment to my external circumstances, or is it an impediment to my will? The stock market crashes. Is that an impediment to my will to be a virtuous and prudent person? No. My boss is unfair. Is that an impediment to my will to act with integrity and professionalism? No. My body is in pain. Is that an impediment to my will to face my circumstances with courage and grace? No. You will find, in almost every case, that your will remains free. Life will bring fetters. Your body will age and fail. Your plans will crumble. Other people will try to limit you. These are impediments to your leg, your career, your fleeting desires. But your will, your true self, is beyond their reach. That is your inviolable sanctuary. It is the one place in the universe where you are, and always will be, the absolute sovereign. Remember the words of the lame slave who was freer than any emperor. First, his defiant declaration of independence. You may fetter my leg, but not even Zeus himself can overpower my will. And second, the calm, logical proof that makes it true. Lameness is an impediment to the leg, but not to the will. Build your life upon that rock, and you will find that you were never in prison at all. You were always free. Thank you for joining us at the Inner Citadel. If this helped you find the key to your own freedom, like this video and subscribe for more tools to build a resilient mind. We'll see you next time.